Right now, the conversation around men's vitality it's louder than ever. And one supplement, Nitric Boost Ultra, seems to be right at the center of it all. But with that kind of popularity comes some really intense scrutiny. So today, we're going to cut through all that noise in this investigative deep dive. So here's the big question, right? The one everyone's asking. Is Nitric Boost Ultra the real deal, a genuine breakthrough? Or is it just a lot of clever marketing that's riding this massive wellness wave? I mean, with all the conflicting reviews, the counterfeit products out there, and some pretty bold claims, it's really hard to know what to believe. Let's dig in and separate the facts from all the speculation.
All right, so first up, what is all this buzz about nitric oxide? Anyway, let's unpack why this one molecule is suddenly on everybody's radar.
So at its heart, Nitric Boost Ultra is a plant-based powder. It's totally stimulant-free, and it makes a pretty simple promise to naturally support your energy, your circulation, and your stamina. And that's really struck a chord with guys, especially those of us over 35 who are looking for a performance edge, but without all the jitters and crashes you get from stimulants.
Okay, promises are one thing, but the science, that's what really matters. So let's break down how this formula is actually supposed to work inside your body.
Okay, so it all boils down to this one molecule, nitric oxide. Now, this isn't something you're eating or drinking, it's something your own body produces. You can almost think of it like the master traffic controller for your entire circulatory system. It's a signaling molecule made right inside your blood vessels that tells them to relax. And that, in turn, helps manage blood flow and the delivery of oxygen and nutrients to literally everywhere they need to go.
But here's the thing that really gets your attention, and it's the whole reason this supplement even exists. It's this number. By the time you're 40, your body's natural ability to produce nitric oxide can drop by a staggering 60%. And that drop? It's directly tied to that feeling of lower energy, that fatigue, that decreased stamina that so many guys start to notice.
So how does this formula even begin to tackle that problem? Well, it uses something they call a dual pathway approach. First, it gives your body the amino acids L-Arginine and L-Citrulline, which are the direct building blocks for nitric oxide. Then, it adds a second, totally parallel pathway using nitrates from beetroot. This two-pronged attack is designed to create a much more robust and sustained level of nitric oxide than you'd get from a simpler single-ingredient formula. And this, right here, this really highlights a huge difference in approach. Most energy boosters, they just rely on artificial stimulation, like a ton of caffeine or even hormones. They force these temporary surges that always lead to that awful spike and crash cycle. Nitric Boost Ultra, on the other hand, is all about what they call physiological restoration. It's designed to work with your body's natural systems to provide steady, sustainable energy, and it does it without any added hormones or stimulants.
All right, so the science, it seems to check out. But what does that actually mean for you in the real world? Let's shift gears and look at the reported benefits and what users are actually experiencing.
Well, we looked at a consumer survey of over 1,200 guys, and the data? It shows this really clear trend of improvement over time. Just look at this. In the first week, 64% of guys noticed an energy improvement. Pretty good. But by day 60, that number jumps way up to 88% who are reporting long-term stamina. And we see that same upward trend for both circulation and even post-workout recovery. What this really drives home is a super important point. The benefits actually build up over time. And, behind all those numbers are real stories from real people. Like this one from Michael, a 48-year-old from Denver. He said, quote, "My endurance had doubled, and my wife said I even looked more alive." I mean, that quote just perfectly captures the shift from, just feeling less tired to feeling genuinely revitalized. So this timeline here really paints a picture of that journey. The first week, you might just see some subtle changes, like better focus. By day 30, though, the effects start to get way more noticeable. A real boost in endurance. And by day 90, users are reporting this new baseline of sustained stamina and what the company calls vascular comfort, which is really just a fancy way of saying improved blood flow. It's a classic case of a marathon, not a sprint. Okay, but no deep dive would be complete if we didn't look at the other side of the coin, right? So let's talk about the complaints, the risk of fakes, and any potential side effects.
Yeah, it's the question we always ask when something sounds this promising. So, what's the catch? Why are there negative reviews out there?
Well, when you really start digging into the actual complaints, a pretty clear pattern starts to show up. Turns out the biggest issues, things like shipping delays or problems with refunds, almost always get traced back to people buying from fake, unauthorized websites. Another big complaint was, hey, I didn't feel anything after 3 days. And like we've been saying, that just comes from unrealistic expectations. It takes time to build those nitric oxide levels up. And other little things like the powder clumping, that's usually just from storing it wrong. And hey, to put all those complaints into perspective, you have to look at this number. Among verified buyers, and we're talking about people who actually bought the real product from the official source, over 85% reported positive and measurable outcomes after using it consistently. That tells a very different story, doesn't it? Okay, but what about safety? Is it safe? Well, a study of over 500 participants showed a really strong safety profile. The only reported side effects were super minor and temporary, things like mild bloating or a flushing sensation, and they affected less than 3% of users. And the most important part? Zero. Absolutely zero serious side effects were reported.
So listen, this is the most critical takeaway here. The single biggest risk you face with this product isn't with the formula itself. It's with the huge counterfeit market out there. The only way to guarantee you're getting the authentic, tested product and that you're covered by the refund policy is to buy it directly from their official website, period.
All right, we've gone through the science, we've looked at the results, and we've talked about the risks. So let's pull this all together and give you the final verdict. Look, if you only take away 3 things from our deep dive today, please make it these 3. First, this is about science, not hype. The whole mechanism is grounded in real, established vascular biology. Second, you have to be patient. This is not an overnight fix. The real results are gradual and build up over 60 to 90 days. And third, authenticity is everything. The biggest problems people run into all come from counterfeit products.
And there's one last piece of the puzzle here, and it's all about consumer protection. The authentic product comes with a 90-day money-back guarantee. This basically lets you try it out for a full 90 days, run your own test without any financial risk. And honestly, that shows a lot of confidence from the company.
So at the end of the day, the evidence really seems to suggest that Nitric Boost Ultra is a legitimate product with a science-backed approach, if you get the real thing. And that kind of leads to a bigger question, doesn't it? As we start to move away from all these harsh stimulants, is this kind of approach, gently fine-tuning our own biology, the real future of performance?